Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast. It is a Wednesday edition of the show, getting you through the week with another, just more Bucs news, more fascinating things going on. We are right in the middle of a lot of draft coverage, but we're taking a little bit of a pivot here today, talking about the Bucs backup QB situation, and if there is a battle brewing between Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask, and potentially Ryan Griffin. We'll get into that as well. I am Matt Matera, and with me, of course, is the man that runs Pewter Report. That is Scott Reynolds.
Hello.
SR, up close and personal. Yeah, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing good. We're awaiting the news. Today could be Blaine Gabbert Day.
Yeah, I saw you post that picture of Blaine early, and I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. Did he get signed already? He is not signed yet, but I mean, it sounds like all arrows are pointing up towards a reunion with Blaine Gabbert, our beloved Blaine Gabbert, your beloved Blaine Gabbert, a fan favorite, would be the greatest looking quarterback on the Bucs and in the NFL if it wasn't for Tom Brady. But Blaine is a very close second, and Blaine has that luscious hair that not even Tom Brady could compete with. Even when Brady had the long hair, he had that phase for a little bit. But no one can mess with the locks of Blaine Gabbert.
Well, especially too, it's like we saw Tom Brady not looking his best at the press conference the other day. I mean, if this is the Brady 2022 look, then Blaine's got this wrapped up. I mean, he just does. So it will be interesting to see what transpires. I mean, you're looking at, Blaine Gabbert, that's look at the long locks right there.
That is, I think the best way to describe that is statuesque. That pose, that look.
Got a little bit of the action hero mullet going on. So, we'll see. The news could be breaking during the show. So I'm riveting to check my text messages feed here as often as possible, and we'll come at you with that news when and if it does happen. I know a lot of Buccaneer fans would like Ndamukong Suh and Rob Gronkowski to be signed first, or ahead of Blaine Gabbert, but all things happen in due time, right?
Right. Patience is a virtue. Rome is not built in the day, and all these guys are pillars to the core that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now, the Super Bowl champions 2 seasons ago, a perennial Super Bowl contender last year, and how they should be this year. And it's funny too, to just get off course for a second, when you talk about the Gronk situation. Obviously the news came out, Gronk is hosting a big party the day of the draft. Gronk Beach is coming back. And someone tweeted, I saw Rick Stroud quote tweeted, but someone had tweeted like, the more Gronkier, I'm putting that in quotations, the more Gronkier Gronk gets, the more likely that he's going to play football. Because when Gronk is at his silliest, his funnest, like that's when the superstar of Gronk came out, and we saw, I think, a big jump from Gronk's first year in Tampa to his second year in Tampa. And so, we're still hoping that comes down. And, Gronk loves the house music, loves the DJs, goes crazy. He gets energized by a lot of that. We get energized.
He's going to be back. It's just, he just doesn't want to do OTAs. That's all it is.
I don't blame him. I mean, not a lot of the Bucs really, not a lot of the starters did it last year either, except for Giovanni Bernard wasn't even a starter, but he was a key component to the offense, or at least that was the plan before injuries and just the way the season went. But they all do the Brady OTAs. There's a big difference there, and Brady probably runs them just as hard too, which is funny enough. But especially, I'm interested to see too, because Todd Bowles, he's obviously been there for the last couple of years, but it is his first time as the new head coach. So I'm curious to see if players will, just at a show of allegiance to Todd Bowles, if they'll show up for one of the OTAs.
For one of them, exactly. Maybe that mandatory one, right? So they don't get fined. but I'm with you, Matt. I think that for a lot of these veterans, I think just getting together with Tom will be enough. Now it's a different situation this year because they went 3 weeks later into the season, right? They won the Super Bowl in February. So the Buccaneers season was 3 weeks shorter this year because they didn't have the NFC Championship game. They didn't have the week between that game and the Super Bowl, and then they didn't have the Super Bowl, right? So they've got 3 more weeks of time, and even Todd Bowles said that he's not making all these players rush back just because he's the head coach. Some of them are already in town, and we'll start that conditioning program a little early. But at the same time, you're going to see some of these players, want to make a good first impression, right? Because there's a new sheriff in town, right? I think a lot of things are going to be the same, but it will be really interesting. And we're going to talk about the backup quarterback position today. Not because the backup quarterback's position is like so exciting and stupendous for this year, right? Because you've got one more year of Tom Brady. Let's go ahead and soak him in. But that's going to be your quartet this year: Tom Brady, Kyle Trask, Blaine Gabbert, and Ryan Griffin, right? This is the same four guys that were here last year. And the big difference is going to be whether Kyle Trask can move from number 4 on the depth chart up to number 2 and beat out Blaine Gabbert, who's got 4 years of experience in this offense, Matt, or whether Blaine stays number 2 and Kyle Trask moves up to number 3. You can pretty much bet that Ryan Griffin, who really kind of serves as Tom Brady's assistant,
capacity, the hands of the king.
Exactly. Yes. I think that's what you're going to see. You're going to see Ryan Griffin. He's not really going to factor into this. This is going to be a 2-person race between Blaine Gabbert when he signs, fingers crossed, and when Kyle Trask reports. He's already in much better shape than he was last year. He worked on the footwork, worked on his release, got quicker in the pocket. So it will be interesting to see, though, right, moving forward, not just this year, but we know that Bruce Arians likes these big, tall, pocket-passing quarterbacks, does not put an emphasis on mobility, Matt. But will that continue in the post-Bruce Arians era? Or is Todd Bowles going to be someone who, from a defensive coordinator perspective, says, mobile quarterbacks present an even bigger threat, right? I mean, they had to chase Patrick Mahomes all the way from sideline to sideline in the Super Bowl, right? And he just presents a different element, that escapability that, let's face it, Brady has to a degree, right? He showed more last year. And Kyle Trask has to a degree. But it's just going to be interesting to see what the methodology is that Todd Bowles is going to move forward with at the quarterback position. Let me ask you this. If Kyle Trask does not beat out Blaine Gabbert this year for the backup job, how damning is that for him? Now, he'll still be under contract in 2023 and 2024, but are you really sold on him being your quarterback for the long term, if that's the case?
Right. That's a good question. I think when it comes to the competition between Trask and Blaine Gabbert, I still think there's a road for Trask to be the future starter of the Bucs in a year or two from now. Now, remember, he's only under a 4-year deal because he was drafted in the second year. So second round, sorry. So he doesn't get that fifth option that most teams pick up with their first round pick. I think if Trask is able to make it a close race, if it's neck and neck, or as long as Gabbert isn't it's a blow-away race where everyone's like, okay, it's Blaine Gabbert's job. Trask has completely dropped the ball. I think if he keeps it close, you can still look for optimism in the upcoming season. But I'm glad you brought this up right beforehand, Scott, that things are going to be a little bit different. Not completely different, but a little bit different with Todd Bowles at the helm as the head coach now, where you're going to see a little different tweaks from what Bruce Arians had. And for everyone listening and watching this, if you didn't see yesterday's episode, Scott, Josh, Casey, and JC did a fantastic job comparing why Todd Bowles is going to have success in his first year. And I think one of the main topics that really stood out to me is that Bruce Arians, almost to a fault sometimes, is fiercely loyal to a lot of his guys, a lot of his veteran players. And most of the time, that's good. That's healthy. I think it hurt in some moments, such as JPP getting way too much playing time and not allowing Joe Tryon-Shoyinka to get onto the field.
Right.
Now, that's one case. Here, with the quarterback situation, Blaine obviously is a BA guy going back to Arizona.
Right. Yeah.
He's been in the league. Yeah, he's been in the
Todd
league.
Bowles going to have that same allegiance to Blaine Gabbert, right?
Right. So when you bring up the mobility, I think that's a great point of emphasis right there too, because Gabbert can move a little bit too, but I think that also goes to Byron Leftwich, which obviously he calls a lot of stuff that is under the umbrella of a Bruce Arians offense. Right. But this might even be an opportunity for Byron Leftwich to really even open up the playbook more, or just implement some things that maybe he wouldn't have done necessarily with Bruce as the head coach. But now that Todd is the head coach, Todd might be looking for something a little bit different, or Todd might just go to him and be like, hey, this is your offense. This is your show. You want to be a head coach. We obviously want you to be here, but we all know how it goes. Do everything you need to do to implement the best offense that is absolutely possible. And I think with Trask too, again, everyone watching, listening to this, Scott, you had some great articles. I was doing some, just further reading up to get all the information on Trask. Articles about a month ago, and even earlier than that, where, you spoke to Clyde Christensen, you spoke to people in the Bucs organization, and you just spoke about it before with, what exactly Trask needs to work on. And you mentioned the footwork, just the way he looks with his body too. These are things that are correctable, and which is good. And I think some things with Trask, and we can dive further into this as well too. I thought Trask starting out, sure, there was a lot of issues, but that's to be expected with a rookie, especially in a Bruce Arians offense. And a lot of times Trask was already behind the 8 ball, because in training camp, Todd Bowles would throw the kitchen sink at Kyle Trask, because a lot of times he's going against that number 1 defense. So Kyle Trask,
you're right.
Go ahead.
And I was going to say, I mean, he wants to see those third stringers, right? The Grant Stewarts and the KJ Britts, see how they blitz, right? So you're right. I mean, Todd Bowles didn't just save all the good stuff for the starters when they were out there in training camp, right? I mean, it was what you saw is what you got from first string, second string, third string with the Todd Bowles defense. So you're right. I mean, and then the tough thing for Trask, and I'm glad you mentioned some of the articles, because Clyde Christensen did a fantastic job of kind of explaining this. You can log on to pewterreport.com, check out some of those old articles. But, the thing that was impressive about Trask in his development was started off and had kind of a shaky preseason, right? But then he ended on a very high note in that game against the Houston Texans, and Houston. And now this is the downside of only having 3 preseason games, Matt, because everybody hates for the 4th preseason game, everybody, except for coaches and general managers when they have a young quarterback to develop, because you want those extra reps, right? But if you look back at his preseason, he started off 4 of 15 for 35 yards with several drops against Cincinnati. I mean, that's an awful looking stat line, 4 of 15 for 35. But if you didn't watch the game, you would look at that and it'd be horrified. But I want to say he probably had 7 drop passes in that game, because he's throwing to guys,
including a deep ball as well too. And I think that was one of the questions about Trask is, does he have enough arm strength? With Bruce Arians unequivocally was like, yes, he does, and he proved it in that game. The receivers weren't able to come down with the ball, and then we saw the improvement the next game. Even though the Bucs only scored 3 points against the Titans, and it was pretty much an abysmal game for the entire team, but Trask was actually all right. He went 13 to 26, so an improvement from the week before. He threw for 134 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. But if I recall, there was 1 interception that, again, the receivers didn't really help him out, and I believe there was a bounce or
bounced
something
off his
along
hands. And he had a fumble. It was a step in the right direction, right?
But not perfect.
But not perfect. But then he goes to Houston, right? And I mean, there you see Bruce Arians consoling Kyle Trask. There'll be better days, man. And that those better days happened literally less than a week later, because he looked like a legit quarterback. Now, listen, it was the 3rd preseason game. He's throwing against the Houston Texans backups, and some of those guys didn't even make the team. They were bagging groceries or, selling insurance or whatever. I get that. But still, he was 12 of 14 for 146 yards with a touchdown, no interceptions in Tampa Bay's 23-16 win. And this is what Christensen had to say. It gave Kyle a boost going into a long, long stretch of not playing, and also probably confirmed in his mind, hey, I can do this. You probably come into the NFL, you have some doubts until you do it. And then that last game gave him a little jolt. Hey, I can do this. and that was fun. And of course, one of the reasons why they drafted Kyle Trask is because he was going to have to sit behind Tom Brady and Blaine Gabbert, and really, even though he was the third string quarterback, he was the de facto fourth string quarterback because of the presence of Ryan Griffin, who was actually on the practice squad. But because Kyle had the second-round draft pick invested in him, Matt, they couldn't afford to sneak him on the practice squad. They had to keep him at number 3, even though he was the de facto number 4.
That's absolutely right. And that's another point that I want to bring up. Going back to Kyle Trask's college football playing days at the University of Florida, he sat a lot on the bench too at Florida. He redshirted his first year and sat on the bench the next season as well. And then I don't believe he began as the starter in 2019. It was Felipe Franks, but then he got hurt. Mm-hmm. And that's when Trask came in and started, doing his thing and started getting the wheels turning. So he didn't really have a full season of knowing that he's the number one guy and the number one starter on the University of Florida until that 2020 season, which overall was pretty good. Threw for over 4,000 yards, had 43 touchdowns. Now, granted,
he led the SEC that year and really kind of outdueled Mac Jones.
Yep. Oh, well, everyone remembers that infamous game against Bama.
Right.
In the SEC championship game, and he was second team all SEC. But yeah, I mean, those are some of the first moments where you saw Kyle Trask. I think we have something here, and I think it's important to note too.
Wow, hold on, we got some breaking news here, Matt. I'm sorry. According to Ian Rappaport, the Buccaneers are adding another premium defender, signing former Cowboys safety Keanu Neal, former Gator,
after moving to linebacker. Of Florida.
Yeah, in Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn's system, Neal is back at safety, and now with Coach Todd Bowles in Tampa with a new deal.
All right, Bucs loading up again at the safety position. Todd Bowles loves that position probably more than any other part of the defense. He's all about versatility. He's all about moving guys around. Scott, every time we're on the show, there's a breaking news about a trade. It was Shaq Mason last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever that was. Everything moves so quickly. But all right, Keanu Neal, Tampa Bay Buccaneer, that secondary getting more solidified day by day.
Right. It'd be interesting to see. I would imagine it's a 1-year deal. So it doesn't preclude the Buccaneers from drafting a safety even early on, believe it or not, because you have Mike Edwards, who is entering his last year in his contract.
Yep.
You've got Logan Ryan, who signed a 1-year deal as a defensive back. We'll see if he plays some snaps at safety or if he is going to be pushing Sean Murphy-Bunting for the nickel cornerback position. Todd Bowles legitimately doesn't know. He said he wants to see what Logan can do on the field before he kind of makes that kind of commitment. So it will be interesting to see what actually transpires there. But it doesn't preclude the Buccaneers from drafting a safety because you've got, I'm guessing, Neal on a 1-year deal.
Yeah,
Mike Edwards will have his contract a year come up this year, and then Logan Ryan as well. So for the long term, they're going to need somebody else to pair with Antoine Winfield.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I love when there's breaking news on the podcast. It makes it that much more fun. Yeah. I guess this does pretty much.
I'm going to say this. It wasn't the signing I was hoping for, right?
I was about to. Well, I don't know if you're thinking the same guy
in the podcast.
Yeah, it wasn't the Blaine one. I was just going to say, I guess this pretty much closes the door on Tyrann Mathieu coming to Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I know, but we spoke about it the other day. It made for a good clip on our YouTube channel. Everyone, please go and look at that. But yeah, it was that picture that we used right there. So unfortunately, that rules out a Honey Badger to Tampa location. Now, Bucs fans just got to hope that he doesn't end up going to the New Orleans Saints. We already saw the Saints pick up, not that Honey Badger was a former Buck, but we already saw them pick up Justin Evans, who Bucs fans are very familiar with. And they're pretty, I wouldn't say loaded, but they have a lot of depth there at safety.
They lost Marcus Williams to the Ravens, so that they're trying to fill.
And Malcolm Jenkins retired.
Well. Malcolm Jenkins retired.
So, that could be a possibility.
Let's round out the Trask conversation here.
Sure.
G Vega says, really need Trask to take up the number 2 role. Otherwise, it's a wasted pick. What are your thoughts on this, Matt? I mean, I don't necessarily think I look at the Trask pick as a number 3, like as a 3rd round pick. It was technically a 2nd round pick, but in all my years of covering the Buccaneers and them sucking so bad, that they usually pick high. So to me, I'm still having flashbacks to second round picks being like pick number 33 and pick number 40, right? And
essentially
like
a late
premium,
first,
yeah, right, late first round pick, like real premium guys. But yeah, technically Trask is a second round pick, but he's kind of a third. I don't know if I necessarily think it's a wasted pick, because I don't think that you can ever have too many good quarterbacks, and we still don't know if Kyle Trask is a good quarterback, but let's find out this year.
Yeah, honestly, Scott, the way I look at it is last year was a redshirt year, and depending on what happens with the competition between Blaine and Kyle Trask this year, it could kind of end up being another redshirt year.
Yeah.
But with that said, if Kyle Trask never starts a game for Tampa Bay, I would look at it as a little bit of a wasted pick, because whether it's a second round or a third round pick, you still want to give that guy an opportunity to become a starter or become an impact player, as as a role player, like we've seen with Mike Edwards getting picked in a similar situation to that. So if Trask doesn't see the field at all, I think it would depend too, because we've seen in recent years, and let's just go under the assumption that Brady is only here for one more season. We have seen in the past few years, though, other quarterbacks have become available more so than they really have in the past 5 to 10 years, I'd say. Whether it's Matt Stafford going to LA, Matt Ryan going to Indy, the Russell Wilson trade. So who knows what it's going to look like at this time next year? What quarterbacks will be a free agent and could be available because teams are ready to move on from someone that you still might be able to get something out of? What quarterback might be disgruntled and is like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not playing here. So I could see Trask in a bit of a situation where if Brady is leaving and the Bucs find themselves with an opportunity to maybe acquire someone like all the rumors about Russell Wilson, and I'm not going to name specific because it's so far from now. But what if Kyle Trask is used in a trade package where it's like, all right, we're going to give you a young quarterback that, doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires, and he's been learning under Tom Brady, and you give us, your quarterback that you either don't want to pay or whatever the issue is.
Right.
If Trask is used in some type of trade like that, then I would say there's a ton of value in there. You're essentially trading a second or a third rounder for your future quarterback for the next 5 years, maybe another decade. But if Trask comes in next year and Brady's gone and we're back to, okay, it's between Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask, and we don't have a lot of other options, or the Bucs decide, all right, we like this quarterback class much better than we did the year before, and they draft the quarterback, and they're going to make it, a triple threat match, a competition between 3 quarterbacks, and Trask doesn't win, then I look at that as a little bit of a wasted pick, because the Bucs are clearly in win now mode, and a second round or third round pick is still very important. And for him to not see the field at all would be a little bit of a waste. But as of right now, no, I still think I'm fine with the pick.
I think one of the stunner moves would be, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but we're going to be coming out with our draft previews and our Bucs best bets, right, at each position, like an early round guy and then a late round guy at every position, just to kind of, get Buccaneer fans tuned into some of these prospects that they like. Last year, if you recall, we nailed Joe Tryon-Shoyinka in our mock draft, and he was also a Bucs best bet at outside linebacker. Kyle Trask was also in our mock draft as the second round pick, and we had him as the quarterback. If you're going to draft a quarterback early, it's going to be Kyle Trask, and it was. It doesn't seem like they're going to draft a quarterback this year, but I'm telling you right now, the guy we're going to put in there is Desmond Ridder. And boy, that would be a stunner, right? If the Buccaneers drafted Desmond Ridder at 27, right? If he slides, and who knows where these quarterbacks are going to go, right?
Yeah.
This is the beauty is in the eye of the beholder quarterback class. I mean, you could see Kenny Pickett goes to number 6 to Carolina. You could see Malik Willis go there. Who knows in what order these quarterbacks are going to go and how many are going to be drafted in the first round. This is not a deep or great quarterback class, but wouldn't that be a stunner if the Buccaneers wanted to hedge their bets and not put all their eggs in the Kyle Trask basket, and they were to draft Desmond Ridder with the first pick at number 27? And then what you say is we have Tom Brady for this year, and now we're going to have a real competition next year. Kyle Trask is going to have a couple years in the system, and Desmond Ridder will have 1 year in the system. And maybe we'll re-sign Blaine Gabbert as the veteran. Maybe we won't. Maybe, again, as we talked about, maybe that's the situation where with Blaine Gabbert, Bruce Arians was loyal to him, but maybe Todd Bowles wants to go in a different direction. Maybe a quarterback like Desmond Ridder brings more athleticism to the table, although he's more of a pocket guy, but he has some legit mobility. That would be fascinating. And we have to put a quarterback in there. So I think that might be the case. What I don't think, though, is I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback. But if they're going to, believe it or not, I think it might be in the first round as a stunner surprise move just to hedge their bets, give Bowles another option to develop a quarterback, because you have to get the quarterback position right.
Yeah.
We've seen in the NFC South, Matt, the reason why the Bucs were cellar dwellers for so many years was because they had Josh Freeman or Josh McCown or Mike Glennon or Jameis Winston, right? And that was it. And the quarterbacks that the Buccaneers were facing were Cam Newton, Drew Brees, and Matt Ryan. Okay. Like, period, the end. That's why the Buccaneers finished fourth in the NFC South for about a decade.
That's right.
So you have to get this quarterback class right. The quarterback that I really like, that I think would be a dynamic fit in Tampa, is this guy, Southeast Louisiana, Cole Kelly. I think this guy he is like one of my draft pets, but I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback. If he's going to go, it's probably fifth or sixth round. The Bucs don't have a fifth or sixth round pick. I don't see them drafting another quarterback per se this year. But
you've been
closes the door of my dream.
Yeah, you've been very high on him.
He's my new Blaine Gabbert.
I would be downright shocked if the Bucs picked a quarterback in the first round of the 2022 draft. I understand all of your reasoning, and I guess you could make some logistical points as to why they would do that. It's funny. Some people have a theory, and this is more for teams that don't have a quarterback at all, that you should just keep drafting a quarterback every year in the draft until you finally get a guy that sticks. And that would be kind of the way that the Bucs would go in that direction. One thing that is interesting too, and this kind of goes to a story that we wrote today, where the Bucs actually have a local Tampa quarterback coming in for a visit and a workout tomorrow on Thursday. Chris Oladokun. Sorry, Chris Oladokun.
Yep.
Yeah, and he played
Sickles
locally played locally in Tampa in high school, then went to USF, transferred out of there, went to Sanford, then ultimately ended up at South Dakota State with the Jackrabbits, where he had most of his success. And, he's considered a late round pick. He's a very athletic guy and has a strong arm, maybe not the most accurate, but he's a very smooth runner and is comfortable with what he does, probably more than most quarterbacks that the Bucs have seen on their roster since, I guess, Sean King, I guess you could say. James could run a little bit, but he was like running for his life, where, he has a little more, a little more mobility to it. But the point I'm trying to make is the Bucs in the past under Bruce Arians have tried to take a flyer on a guy, whether he goes undrafted or has been around the league. Like they signed Reed Sinnett as an undrafted free agent a couple years ago, I believe Bruce's first year with Tampa or his second year. And then they took a flyer on Josh Rosen as well. So they like the little pet project of bringing in a quarterback with some things that they like and seeing if they can mold him into a future starter.
And again, I think they're set with their 4 quarterbacks this year, but they're going to need a quarterback for the rookie minicamp. And so I think this guy's probably going to go undrafted, and he's local. And I think he could be signed on a tryout basis to be that quarterback in the rookie minicamp. Obviously, last year it was Kyle Trask, right? And then you bring in like some other scrub to throw the ball so you don't overwork Trask's arm. But I just think that's probably what this is. They're getting a look there. The other thing that the Buccaneers do, and not just the Bucs, but other teams, is they'll bring in Chris Oladokun to ask him about a guy like Pierre Strong, his running back, right, who is in this draft class probably as an early day 3 pick, probably a 4th round pick. Very fast running back, catches the ball, dynamic runner, played obviously small school competition. But we've seen the Buccaneers bring in some running backs. J.C. Allen had a story up earlier today that Isaiah Spiller was brought in from Texas A&M in one of those top 30 visits, and that's why he can catch the ball. He's kind of a well-rounded running back Dameon Pierce from Florida is going to be
great picture.
Yeah, he's going to be in town tomorrow as well, part of the local visits, and then as well as Jerome Ford from Cincinnati, another Tampa kid. The reason why Dameon Pierce is coming in is because he's from Florida at the Gators, but then you've got Jerome Ford, who is from Tampa, and so when you bring in local kids for a visit, they either have to go to a local school, Florida, UCF, or USF. Those are the territorial schools that the Bucs can bring in draft prospects and not have them count against their top 30. Or you can bring in guys that are from Tampa, and that's where a player like Jerome Ford, who started his career at Alabama, then saw the depth chart, then transferred to Cincinnati, where he worked with Desmond Ridder and Alec Pierce. And the other thing, too, is, right, we've seen, and you were one of the ones you and John were reporting from Indianapolis, the Buccaneers had a formal meeting with Alec Pierce from Cincinnati, the wide receiver. And so you get intel by bringing in a Jerome Ford. Hey, what are your thoughts, Jerome, on your teammate, Alec Pierce? What are your thoughts on Desmond Ridder, right? This is part of the investigative process during the draft scouting process.
Yeah, I believe that was a big thing with Mike Edwards, too, where they spoke to Josh Allen, I believe, and they just wanted to ask Josh Allen about Mike Edwards to see what he
Not
can do.
Pewter Report's Josh Allen.
Yes,
not the Buffalo Bills Josh Allen, the former Kentucky Wildcat Josh Allen, who was a first-round draft pick of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that, because there are a lot of Josh Allens out there in the world of the NFL.
Yes,
so
no doubt about it.
Yeah, but I think that's one thing that the Bucs probably do almost better than most teams in the NFL is obviously you want to bring in the talent, the athleticism, just overall great football players. But I think the Bucs do a tremendous job of finding just great quality people. More than just what they do on the football field. Yeah. Obviously, we could talk day and night about what Mike Evans and Chris Godwin have really meant to the community. And so I think the Bucs do great with that. And this could be a situation right here and there where they bring in guys to ask about other guys that they might not necessarily be able to bring into the room. And I think the Bucs also, being in Tampa, have a huge advantage in terms of the local guys. Sure, Florida, schools like that, UCF, where you can bring in guys, but there's so much talent in Tampa. You see guys across the country from Tampa go to different schools and stuff where they have a little bit more of an advantage than most people. Yeah, Christian Watson, of course, is another example.
And we have not heard whether he's going to be part of this visit or not. And you can look at that a couple ways. The Bucs are not interested in Christian Watson. He couldn't make it because he's visiting another team. That could be a reason. The Buccaneers might be trying to camouflage and use some subterfuge as part of their draft process. We're not going to show any interest in Christian Watson, and we're going to draft him at 27. I mean, that kind of stuff does happen, and teams will change their approach from year to year. It's interesting to note, one of the guys that's doing a ton of pre-draft visits right now is one of the guards that Tampa Bay maybe should be interested in. That's Keanu Green from Texas A&M, right? But they didn't interview him at the Combine. They, at least to our knowledge, not bringing him in for a top 30 visit. There was a tweet on Twitter today that listed his visits. Tampa Bay was not among them. And so I know that a lot of people are crazy about Zion Johnson from Boston College, and I think we're one of them at Pewter Report, but there's a pretty good chance he's not going to be there at 27. And then so within Keanu Green, if he is there, would he be the fallback option? Or with this team, and we talked about it kind of at length yesterday, we're not going to go in today, but yeah, you got Aaron Stinney. You drafted Robert Hainsey last year, and he is going to play guard in addition to center. That's something that Jason Light talked about. You've got Nick Leverett. So you have some bodies. The cupboard's not bare at guard. You don't necessarily have to draft a guard there, but it's just interesting during this pre-draft process of who is coming to Tampa and who's not so far.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And again, we have another great video that we cut up on our YouTube yesterday where you and JC were talking about just all the offensive guards that Tom Brady played with in New England.
Yeah,
the offensive guards
group.
Yeah, exactly. All the all the guards that are not first round draft picks that have done well in this league. Obviously, the Bucs have had that with guys like Ali Marpet and Alex Kappa, who both aren't here anymore. But that doesn't mean the Bucs can't replenish and re-energize that offensive line. And Scott, we've been a half an hour. That's right. We've been half an hour into the show, and we still haven't even – I mentioned Celsius at the beginning, but we got to tell the fans everything about this great product that is Celsius energy drinks.
We really do. And today it was the Fuji apple pear.
I got the sparkling mango passion fruit.
That's a quality flavor there. And
yes, it is.
It's not just quality flavors, Matt. It's quality energy. And what we mean by quality energy is you're not going to get the energy like you're going to get from other energy drinks and then the sugar crash that's going to accompany it. Okay. And listen, I'm watching my sugar. I'm getting older and I want to, stay away from diabetes and things like that. So I am watching my sugar intake. So Celsius is a great healthy choice for that reason. But folks, I've tried some of the other sugar-free choices of energy drinks and they taste like absolute shit, if I can use that word. I just did. Celsius does not. I mean, it's the exact opposite. The flavors are tremendous. Folks, if you're looking at this on YouTube, the strawberry guava tastes like strawberry guava. The tropical vibe, well, what is tropical vibe? Well, it's sparkling star fruit and pineapple. And if that doesn't sound good, try it. It will change your mind. It's one of my absolute top favorite flavors. Peach vibe tastes like you're biting into a peach. Orange, which is my absolute favorite, it tastes like orange juice. I can't even drink orange juice anymore. It's got way too much citric acid for my throat and my esophagus and all that stuff. But boy, I get that orange flavor and that energy kick from Orange Celsius. So do what we do at the Pewter Report team. Make Celsius a part of your day, especially in the mornings when you need that extra boost and pick me up. And folks, when you're looking for Celsius, where do you go to find it? Go to Celsius.com, click on the store locator and type in your address. You'll find all sorts of stores that'll pop up around you, hopefully from health and fitness stores, convenience stores, grocery stores, etc. Then go try them. Once you find the ones that you like, you know what to do. Go to Amazon, buy them in bulk with the subscribe and save option. They ship them right to your door. That way, you don't run out of Celsius.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love every time I go to convenience store, bodega, you see it everywhere. You see all the different flavors. And I absolutely love when you, the Pewter Report fans, when you tweet at us telling us you bought a new can or you're trying a new flavor for the first time. We absolutely love that. If you do that, tag us in it. We will retweet you. We'll give you a shout out. We can't thank Celsius enough for being a sponsor on the Pewter Report podcast. And
here's Nate Pitts. Sorry, Scott. Fuji apple pear is the only flavor I can't adjust to. Every other flavor out there can grow. That's true. And that's a fair point. And you don't have to like Fuji apple pear, Nate, or anybody else. The great thing is they literally have, I think they're close to 20 flavors now of Celsius. They've just come out with some new ones. I haven't even tried this one yet. The Arctic
Yeah, neither
Vibe.
have I. There are like so many flavors. Scott, there's honestly so many flavors that I'm like, oh, wait, like that's a flavor? I didn't even know that. Like there's so many that, like you said, I can't keep up. I can't keep track, but I guess that's a good thing because it's like a new surprise every time you walk into a convenience store or order it on Amazon and there's a new flavor you could try.
Yep. Tom Bucs fan, that ad won me a case of Celsius and protein bars to hook me on their product. Yes, you definitely need to try it. You will be hooked, but you'll be grateful that you did. So, well, here's Nate's rankings. Let's get to these. Peach vibe number 1, orange, kiwi guava, tropical vibe, watermelon, grape, cola. Boy, the cola too. That's definitely one that kind of snuck back on me there. And then all the rest, that's Scott's favorite, Fuji apple pear. So listen, Matt, let's dive into this a little bit, right? When it comes to Keanu Neal, right? Because that was kind of the breaking news that happened about 10, 15 minutes ago. And the interesting thing about this is Carmen Vitale from a longtime Buccaneers reporter for Buccaneers.com, very well connected to the team, obviously. She tweeted out, and let me read the post again here. This is from Ian Rappaport, and this is coming from the agents. So this is Rappaport's report. The Bucs are adding another premium defender. That's the keyword, defender. Signing former Cowboys safety Keanu Neal, source said. After moving to linebacker in Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn's system, Neal is back at safety and now with new coach Todd Bowles in Tampa with the deal done by Sports Stars NYC. That's the agent group. So Rappaport is calling him a defender, but saying he's back playing safety, which was his position at Florida. That's where the Falcons made him, I believe, a first-round pick. And
it was early, yeah.
Or second round, yeah. And then he was a safety there. And then Dan Quinn moved from Atlanta to Dallas and played him at linebacker. I will say this, though. This is what Carmen Vitale said from the Draft Network, which is where she's at now. I'd look for Neal to be more of a linebacker than safety with the Bucs. Now, the interesting thing is, Matt, when you and I were at One Buccaneer Place for Todd Bowles' press conference, he was talking about his staff and how he had to kind of get on a Zoom call with his staff to let him know, hey, I'm the head coach now, and here's what the schedule is going to be for the offseason. That was during the week where the coaches had the week off. So Bruce Arians wrecked Todd Bowles the week off by saying, you got promoted. And Todd Bowles was like, okay, a couple more million in my pocket. That'll make up for me having my week off wrecked this offseason. But the interesting thing is this. Todd Bowles said, we have to go over some things, and there's some new things we're going to do on defense that the coaches don't even know about. So
that's right.
Listen, Todd Bowles has always got the wheels turning, right? I think he was limited so much by what he could do last year with all the injuries at the cornerback position and even the safeties, right? With Mike Edwards missing a couple games with the suspension, Antoine Winfield and Jordan Whitehead missed some games with their injuries. But Matt, it seems to me like we might see some real unique tweaks and changes to this Bucs defense. And maybe Neal's one of those flex position players like Logan Ryan, where Logan Ryan might be a safety in a corner and Keanu Neal might be a safety and a linebacker.
Yeah, I was smiling because you said that we might see some unique things from the Bucs defense. Meanwhile, we've seen like Vita Vea drop back in coverage and Jason Pierre-Paul collect 2 interceptions 2 seasons ago. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Todd Bowles is all about versatility, all about just, again, throwing the kitchen sink and making the quarterback think. And, he's moving protection to the right and the Bucs are blitzing from the left. Yeah. I absolutely love, and we saw it too. Now, these players are obviously more traditional safeties, but, Antoine Winfield Jr., I absolutely love when he's up at the line of scrimmage, when they blitz him off the edge.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
It reminds me of Rondé Barber.
He doesn't get there 100% of the time, but it feels like that he gets there 100% of the times. And when he gets to the quarterback too, he's knocking that football out as well. He's not just getting the sack. He's knocking the football out too. Jordan Whitehead, I understand, no longer with the Bucs, but his role when he was here with the Bucs, physical guy, contact player, and his best attribute was playing up at the line of scrimmage, stopping the run there. So I just see a great opportunity here with Keanu Neal, knowing that he's played safety and he's played linebacker. He understands both of those. Like, let's face it, Levante David and Devin White are not going to come off the field if they are 100% healthy. So it's not like some people are saying, oh, he could replace Kevin Minter. That could be something where Minter maybe doesn't make the team, but I don't think we're going to just slot Keanu Neal straight up into the third linebacker role.
Right.
I see some great opportunities where, maybe sometimes they'll line up 3 linebackers because Todd Bowles will just, pull something that a team hasn't seen yet. And other times you think he's lining up at linebacker and then he's moving back to safety and he's getting in coverage and throwing everything off on the offense. There's so many options. With Todd Bowles
and it could be the same thing with Logan Ryan where he's lining up at safety, right? And all of a sudden he drops down into the slot, or he's lining up at slot and all of a sudden he switches positions with Antoine Winfield and all of a sudden Winfield's in the slot and you've got Logan Ryan over the top. I do like the flexibility that some of the bringing their games to Tampa because it does give Todd Bowles the green light to do more things and be more creative and have more flexibility in case there's injuries too, right? That's another key component. Listen, the Buccaneers were scarred last year, right? Yeah. We've seen how they were injured at the receiver position down the stretch. AB's gone, right? Kicked off the team or quit on the team, however you want to look at it. Chris Godwin's out for the year with the ACL. And then down the stretch, you saw Brashard Perriman and also Cyril Grayson missed the last game with those injuries, I believe hamstring injuries. And so now all of a sudden the Buccaneers are ramping up a wide receiver, right? They're getting Russell Gage. They're bringing in guys like Treylon Burks, and we'll talk about Burks in a second here. But bringing in some receivers for those top 30 visits, I think you're going to see this team stockpile more defensive backs just because they were shell-shocked. They were shell-shocked at wide receiver in 2019 at the end of the season and also last year. So they're stocking up there. And I think they're going to be stocking up in the draft too, in the defensive secondary, even though they bring in a Keanu Neal and a Logan Ryan, because they're only going to be here for 1 year. You want to get some of those younger blood guys in there. And let's not forget, in addition to Mike Edwards being in a contract year, same thing for Jamel Dean and Sean Murphy-Bunting.
Yeah, absolutely true. And I think we've seen the past 2 years with the Bucs under Todd Bowles. I know he's been there 3 years, but if you look more at the last 2 years, the Bucs have suffered major injuries along the defensive line, whether it was Vita Vea in 2020 or JPP missing a bunch of games this year.
Yeah.
And the Bucs, even though both players are important when they're fully healthy, the Bucs were still able to, keep the ship steady and keep going and still being a very productive defense.
Yeah.
When SMB got hurt, when Carlton got hurt, when some of the safeties missed time too, that was really where it hurt, I think, the Bucs more than anything else. So I think Todd Bowles understands, okay, you need depth everywhere. There's no question. Yeah. But the loss of the guys in the secondary, especially with what Todd Bowles likes to run, that is way more detrimental to this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense than if they were to lose a guy on the defensive line. You need depth everywhere, but I guess if you had to choose and you don't want to choose either, the lesser of two evils really would be if you have more depth and quality guys that you could put in the secondary. And that's why I think, too, more than anything else, and you see it with the signing of Keanu Neal, Todd Bowles is more than anything else is going to want to bring in playmakers because of that versatility. Because if one guy goes down, okay, we can move this guy here and this guy there and come up with something completely different. We're going to put Antoine Winfield Jr. in the slot because we like our other safety to, play further back. I just think if you get more playmakers, you can move guys around, move Joe Tryon-Shoyinka to the inside. Mm-hmm. We obviously saw that. It's just all about producing athletes on this defense, which is when I really think, Todd Bowles is at his best. And that's when you have Patrick Mahomes running around, literally jumping to throw the ball because he has no other options.
Yeah, and it looks like Pewter Report's J.C. Allen in our Pewter Report group text is reporting that he will be a safety. I guess he got a phone with the agent. So he will be a safety, but of course he does have that flexibility to be a linebacker. So that's something that the Bucs can fall back on. But 14 games last year in Dallas, 5 starts, terrific around the box. Bigger player like Whitehead, very similar, but the biggest thing is, can he stay healthy? He had 72 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits last year in Dallas. But this was a player that he had 3 healthy seasons in Atlanta, and he had 100 plus tackles in those seasons. He's a big time hitter. So I think he is that Jordan Whitehead replacement right there. The other interesting thing about the Neal signing is, he's a bit of a headhunter, right? I mean, he's a physical guy that is very much like Whitehead, where he will come out and knock you out. Not quite the hunter that Treylon Burks is, the Arkansas wide receiver. I don't know if you've seen the story on ESPN about this guy. This is a player that we all at Pewter Report love and might be in consideration if he's there at 27. Don't think he's going to be, but boy, this guy is interesting. Let me read you a quick little passage here. He is an Arkansas native, and so he stayed within the state. And his coach Sam Pittman had this to say, but the word that he kept coming back to describe Burks was country. Quote, he hunts wild boar with his dogs and the whole 9 yards, Pittman said. End quote. Yes, you read that correctly. Burks doesn't just fish. He doesn't just hunt deer with a crossbow. He goes into the woods in search of a wild boar.
Scott,
nothing. Yes.
I don't want to cut you off, but there is more breaking news.
Please.
Tweeted out from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' own Twitter account.
Yes.
And I quote tweet, we've re-signed Blaine Gabbert. Ladies and gentlemen, Blaine Gabbert is back as a backup quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Scott, you must be through the roof because I am feeling fantastic right now. Tears are coming out of his eyes. He's back.
This is a big day for me.
Super Bowl's back on, baby.
Oh, gosh. This is a day I've waited for a long time, and I'm just glad I was here for it. Folks, this was supposed to be the graphic today. Blaine is back, and he is. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jason Light. Thank you, Todd Bowles. Thank you, Mike Greenberg. Okay, so Blaine is back. This was the original graphic because I got word earlier today that this was probably going to get done, and it did, and I'm very thankful. And then I had to switch it up to this one just in case Blaine wasn't signed by this podcast. I had to throw the backup quarterback Battle Brewing in there, and we got the graphic done. But yes, Matt, this is a glorious day. This is might be my all-time favorite podcast episode, aside from the one that John and I did after the Bucs won the Super Bowl. That was really good too. So
yeah, Bucs Super Bowl.
It's an honor to share this moment with you.
It's a pleasure to be here. I mean, this is a monumental moment in Pewter Report and Pewter Report podcast history.
Yeah,
we have never been live, I don't think, when Blaine Gabbert has re-signed. So it's fantastic to get your live reaction to a seriously critical moment to this team. The quarterback room is set. Blaine Gabbert is going to, Tom Brady's going to set the tone, but Blaine Gabbert is going to be right there. He's still going to help out Tom with the offense, be a mentor to Kyle Trask, compete with Kyle Trask. Things are on the up and up. Things were already looking good, but it's even better. This is a fantastic, tremendous, wonderful, just great Wednesday.
It has been. So we appreciate everybody. You know, it's a 1-year deal. Got that confirmed from the team.
We did it.
We did it. We got Blaine back.
Another thing people should really go back to, and I don't mean to cut you off here, but one other thing that you got to go back to as soon as you can is to Pin Chasers Bowling Lane.
Yes.
Pin Chasers, there are multiple locations, but this is more than just a bowling alley. They have fantastic food. It's absolutely underrated. They got breakfast food as well, too. They have deals going almost every single night, including all-you-can-eat pizza on Tuesdays and all-you-can-bowl on Thursdays after 9 p.m. You also drink Miller Lights for $1. You know, there's always a lot of great sporting events on. So they got plenty of TVs. You can watch all your favorite sports. Baseball is about to come back. If you're into that, you can bowl, watch at the same time. The waiters and waitresses, they bring the food right to you. So you can order. They got a little, you know, they bring around the digital thing. You can order there. They bring it right to you. So you don't even have to get up from your seat.
You keep bowling. They bring the food.
Keep Todd bowling.
That's it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Get bowled over.
Get bowled over, hit some strikes, enjoy that Blaine Gabbert is back. So make sure you go to pinchasers.net to reserve a lane or book a party. It's a great night out with friends and family. So pinchasers.net. And we, again, thank them for being a sponsor of the Pewter Report podcast because their owner is also a huge Bucs fan who was probably very happy about Blaine Gabbert coming back.
Why wouldn't he be? I mean, that's the best news that I've heard all day. I'm composed now. I appreciate y'all hanging in there with me. There was a moment. I do want to finish before we get out of here the Treylon Burks story because this is
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
But, no. That was the best interruption that could have happened, Matt. You're forgiven, and I appreciate it. So, but this man of a football player here, and I say man with a capital M because Treylon Burks. Let me finish this story here. He's a big 6'3", 225-pound wide receiver from Arkansas. The Bucs like him a lot, and why wouldn't they? This guy is an absolute baller. Play outside, he can play in the slot. I would have no reservations about them drafting this guy 27 if he's there. Let me finish the story here. His head coach Sam Pittman at Arkansas is telling how he likes to hunt wild boar with his dogs and the whole 9 yards. So this is how the story continues. This is from ESPN. Yes, you read that correctly. Burks doesn't just fish. He doesn't just hunt deer with a crossbow. He goes out into the woods in search of wild boar with nothing but his dogs and a knife.
That is badass.
Badass. I want the Bucs I want Jason Light to trade up to get this guy. Okay. Especially, and this is the article continues, especially what happens essentially what happens is this. The dogs find the hog and corner it. Then another dog is sent in to hold the wild animal in place. If it's too small, they'll turn the hog loose. If it's big enough to feed them and the others, it's time to go in. Emphatically, Burks explained, we do not use guns. Using a gun takes the fun out of it. Having a knife It's more of a thrill that you're getting up on a wild boar that could kill you. Honestly, it's just a thrill being out there with your friends and family and having a good time.
Yeah, that levels the playing field. It makes it fair. That makes it pretty much a fair fight. And it's like, okay, he's going to come into this league. He's not going to be afraid about a lockdown corner.
He's a friggin' Razorback himself. Look at the helmet, people. He's got a wild boar on his helmet. He's out there hunting wild boar that have tusks that have been known to kill people. Okay, we're talking 300-400-pound wild animals, and this guy hunts them with dogs and a knife. I love it. Jason Light, move up and draft this guy.
Yeah, I really like him as a player too. I think he catches like literally every single pass that comes his way. He's got great hands, great verticals as well too. And I feel like he probably saves a lot of money just by using a knife to go after these boars, because if you're using guns, like you got to keep getting ammunition and all of these things. Where
he's treating this guy like a boar. He is
pretty much
going to town on him. I love it. I love this guy. I'm
a big fan of him.
He's wide receiver 1 on my board, John Ledyard's board. I think the whole PR staff has much appreciation for Treylon Burks' skill set. This is next level stuff, folks. It just is. When you're doing like the character background research on these players, what makes him tick? Well, the fact that he hunts wild boars with a knife. End of story. Draft him.
Exactly. Like, what else do you really need to say? Like, those type of guys, like people that have the crazy stories, these players, they're just built differently. It's like nothing can, when you're going one-on-one with the wild boar, nothing else can phase you. Nothing in the NFL is going to phase him. Oh, hi, Tom Brady. Nice to meet you. 90% of people, especially rookies, they freak out. Oh my God, I'm meeting a living legend. This guy's going to be like, yeah, Tom, how many boars have you hunted with your
this
bare
is
hands and
true.
a knife?
Charlie Abrams, 600 to 900-pound boars to us, they get big. That's true. That's a fact, right? So yeah, I maybe I was lowballing it with the 300 to 400-pound boars. Okay,
that's unbelievable. I hope that doesn't. I don't even want to say it, but like, it'd be terrible. God forbid there's an accident like in Game of Thrones. That's how the first king died that way in a poor accident.
I mean, I'm worried about Devin White falling off his horse and getting hurt in the offseason, right? I mean, that's a scary proposition, right? That it's like, we got to draft another wide receiver. Treylon Burks, last year's number 1 pick, got impaled by a boar tusk.
He's or he's gonna be out for the season with a laceration and a rib injury.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott, before we get out of here, let's talk a little bit about Amuni Financial.
Let's do that.
At Amuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Dude, congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you. And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track, so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Amuni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
Matt, what we got to do? We got to get to Colorado.
We got to get to Colorado and hunt something. I don't know if there's boars in Colorado, but I'm sure there's hunting that we could do.
Yeah, there's like moose and elk. I mean, it's like big game stuff up there, right? But listen, if you want some big game in your portfolio, right? How is that for a little segue? Mark Hoke would be proud of that.
He would.
Managing your family's wealth means more to Amuni Financial than simply allocating your assets. Folks, do what I did, okay? Especially in this financial climate that is a little topsy-turvy right now with everything that's happening in the world with inflation and all of that. These folks are on top of it. The folks over at Amuni Financial, Mark, Dave, their whole staff, they will take care of you. What I want you to do is do what I did. Give them a call, 1-800-868-6864. It is a risk-free, no obligation consultation. If you like what they have to say, then sign up with Amuni Financial. Let them handle your college savings accounts for your kids, your insurance needs, your retirement accounts, so you're squared away for your retirement, any brokerage and advisory services that you might need, any legacy planning, right, to ensure that your wealth gets passed down to your kids. let the folks at Amuni Financial help you out, and they'll help you out by planning ahead and staying ahead with 40 years of experience in the Tampa Bay area. 40 years of experience. That's a lot, folks. That's twice what Tom Brady has in this league, just about. Amuni Financial, give them a call, 1-800-868-6864, or visit amuni.com. Matt, this has been a wild roller coaster of a show, from the thrilling news that Blaine Gabbert is back to talking about the legitimate battle between Blaine Gabbert. Listen, just because he's back, folks, doesn't mean he's going to be the number 2. He's got to go through Kyle Trask to see if that ends up coming to fruition. That will be an interesting training camp battle to watch, because that's not just for this year, Matt. That's could be for the future as well. Something to keep an eye on there.
Absolutely. It's very, very important for the development of Kyle Trask. I think we kind of pretty much know what we have with Blaine at this part of his career. But for Kyle Trask, it's very important to take that next step moving forward and potentially get number 2 quarterback and set himself up to maybe be the future quarterback in a year or 2 from now.
No doubt about it. Plus, we had the wild news from ESPN about Treylon Burks from Arkansas. What just an amazing story, and I would love to see this guy in red and pewter. And of course, the big news also: Keanu Neal signing with the Buccaneers as a safety. Does that take safety out of contention in round 1? We had the Georgia safety, Lewis Seen, as the first round pick in last month's mock draft. We have a new mock draft coming out tomorrow on pewterreport.com that I was going to have another safety in there, Jaquan Brisker from Penn State, that I'm going to have to change now. So we have a new mock draft coming out tomorrow. Bucs 7-round mock draft, probably around noon, because I'm going to need some more time. It was about halfway done. Now I've got to make some changes. But this is interesting news. Keanu Neal and Blaine Gabbert in the fold today, Matt. Great show.
Absolutely a great show. A ton of news. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get those likes up. Please help us out with that. If you're listening on audio, feel free to subscribe later when you're able to get on our YouTube channel. Yep. So for Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thank you, everybody, for watching another episode of the Pewter Report podcast. And we will see you again tomorrow, Thursday at 4 p.m. Out.